So good afternoon. Today I, myself and Maya are going to talk about the reusable food packaging system. I will provide a general overview of the current reusable food packaging system and some practice already in place in the different countries. But Maya will be more talking about project findings on the reusable systems. So when we look at the waste management system, recycling was prioritized until very recent time, but now the reuse is preferred over the recycling for some type of application, not including the all type of application, but depending on the type of application, reuse is preferred the way. Why we talk about reusable systems recently? So single-use food packaging is a resource and the waste intensive, considering it is extremely short life of time, and it produces a lot of plastic, and the plastic issue is not only issue in the EU, is a kind of like planetary issue. And special focus on the plastic packaging is in place. Particularly, it is seen as a sources, the pollution sources for environment, human health. So also, it is important to note that not the main macroscopic level of the plastic particles, but also the micro or nano level of the plastic is quite a big issue currently. And recent studies shows that they are now the many places in the air, in the water, in the blood, in the human cells. So it is particularly the issue for the macroplastic and nanoplastic, which are difficult to detect and identify. Reusable systems, the packagings must be designed to be repeatedly reused for the same purpose for which they were originally created. Despite the many efforts and ambitious industrial initiatives, the world still is off track for the plastic waste and the pollution tackling. Packaging elimination is needed where possible, and the recycling efforts still need to be placed in order to achieve the full circular system where plastic does not need to become waste, and reusable system need to be significantly implemented and scale in particular for the takeaway sectors. According to the model proposed by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, reusable system can be divided into the two main categories, the refill and the return. And the refill can be at home or on the go. And the similar to the refill, return also can be from home and on the go. And if we look at details, these refill at home models are where the consumers refill their own reusable packaging in their home, either through the delivered to the door format system or refill sold at store. Consumers are responsible for the reusable packaging, including cleaning. And some of the good examples could be the dilutable concentrated liquids, which consumers need to add the water on top at home. And it's also important to ensure that the refills itself will not create more waste than the traditional single-use models. And the supply of the refills also needs to be recyclable or reusable itself. I don't know what happened. I guess I touched the wrong button. Okay. Sorry for that. Okay, here. So the second model called refill on the go, which is similar to the refill at home model, and consumers refill their reusable packaging away from home, such as in-store dispensing system. Dispensing system can be places in the public spaces, the office buildings or stores. And consumers, again, are responsible for reusable packaging. And the good examples could be the dried goods like a pasta or some maybe the beverage can be implemented in these models. And the consumers are flexible to choose the amount of food or beverage they want to purchase. When we look at the return models, return from home model, at the return from home model, packaging is collected from customers' home through the subscribing the delivery or collection service. It means company delivers a new reusable packaging and empty the container. So this again model could be the good fit for the beverage and the takeaway food. The brand or the third party service provider can have a shared responsibility for packaging to be collected, washed, and redistributed, and which will reduce the overall cost. This model can be better suited to areas where the transport distances are not very long. Return on the go model is one of the models already already is being in place in the different the countries as like a pilot project. And here the customers get a product in the reusable packaging and return the packaging at the store or drop-off points. And the packaging is then cleaned and hygienized and redistributed again. Smart technologies can be used to track the packaging use. And this model could be the good for the beverage and takeaway. And the brand or the retail don't need to be responsible for the reusable system. Packaging can be collected, washed, and redistributed by the third party provider. So, concerning the last and this year in particular, for the reusable plastic packaging, there are quite a bit efforts made in some of the EU countries, and Germany is known for their reusable and returnable plastic bottle system. And there are some independent reuse service providers are already implementing. And the brands or the grocery stores are rolling out their own system and the reusable targets for the next couple of years. And if you look at what the regulatory developments are being made for the reusable systems, and EU packaging and packaging waste regulation proposed the targets for the PFAS to banning the PFAS in food packaging above the certain standards, certain levels. So it also targets reducing the packaging and apart from the fostering recycling. PPWR places a key emphasis on avoiding and preventing the unnecessary use of the packaging. And so to reduce the unnecessary packaging, a maximum empty space ratio of the 50 is set, in particular for group transport and e-commerce packaging. And there is the target for the reduction is based on the future time frame. So 5% by 2030, 10% by 2035, and 15% by 2040 are targeted. And there are quite a bit information given in the slide, so I will not go one by one. So it will be nice if you can probably, if you like, go and see the details. So to support the reusable and refill systems, at least the 10% of the reusable alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverage packaging is targeted by 2030. And is with the aim of reaching to the 40% by 2040. And again, the group packaging, excluding the cardboard group packaging, and 10% is targeted by 2030 and 25 by 2040. Transport packaging, again, is for 40% by 2030 and 70% by 2040. And the takeaway business actually seen is the most possible the sector to implement the reusable packaging into the near future. And by 2029, EU member states are required to set up a deposit return system for beverage and plastic systems. So the labeling is important, not only for reuse, but the labeling is important for any kind of the packaging material. And the EU says the harmonized labeling of the packaging is to be in place and require that the packaging must be labeled with the EU-wide harmonized label, in particular for reuse. And following the adoption of the Implementation Act by the Commission recently, and reusable packaging also should have the label informing user for its reusability, but through the QR code. So this QR code will provide the information on the collection points or any other relative information for the reusable systems. Apart from what the EU is now trying to bring to the regulatory perspective for the reusable packaging, also there are some regulatory developments in place in the different EU countries and also US as well. And I will not go through with them because of the time limitation, and I will more focus on some recent case studies. As we are talking about the food contact materials, and the reusable system should be designed and target for the multiple times of cycles. Of course, the chemical safety and the migration is much more important than maybe the single-use plastic, because in the single-use plastic, we are aware of the untargeted and targeted migration studies showing that a lot of different varieties of chemical transfer into the food from package, but it is particularly important when you target the reusable packaging for the over and over cycles of use. So far is 16,000 food contact chemicals are known, and still around 100,000 chemicals could be potentially present in the packaging material and be migrating into the food. So still there is a huge data gaps is existing to identify and detect of the chemicals. And it is important to also consider the plastic, and in particular the plastic packaging for reusable purposes are not inert as glass and metal. So, which can bring the additional safety issue along with it. And current reuse challenges, if we look at from the more broad perspective, so still there is a limited infrastructure for reuse to operate and implement efficiently. And the standardization is needed that will allow for the marketing of products. And legal liability for operators related to food safety needs to be also addressed. And in terms of understanding the real environmental impact of the reusable packaging, we need to get familiar with some definitions. And these definitions need to be involved in the calculations. And when we look at the rotation cycles, what is the rotation cycles? So the average rotation cycles before the package reached its end of life. So indicates the number of the times the reusable packaging can be functioning before it becomes unusable. I don't want to use the waste here because I hope they will not be waste when they reach their end for the reusable. They will still be part of the recycling stream once they completed their reusable life. And return rate. So return rate is the percentage of the packaging returned to the starting point at the end of the reuse cycle. So the higher return rate, of course, we should expect the more economically viable reusable systems. And the terminology we often use for the reusable systems is the retention time. So retention time is the average time measured in the days that the packaging needs to complete the one full rotation. And because, and thus the unavailable for reuse, it is currently at another point in the use cycle. So it can be in the consumer level stage, it can be in the washing cycle stage, or it can be also in the transport stage. So some of the recent reports are giving some facts, some numbers regarding the environmental impact of the reusable packaging compared to this single-use plastic packaging. So in particular, if we look at the reusable polypropylene, I think which is probably the more concern now, the reusable plastic than the glass and ceramic. So if we look at the reusable polypropylene as an example and the indication of the reusable system, so when it compares with the single-use polypropylene, if it used more than 10 times, it reached to do the same environmental impact with the single polypropylene. So if it used 20 times, the environmental impact will be lower than the paper cups. So I will give a little bit more detail later in the next slide for the other applications. So this is very actually a nice life cycle assessment, which targeted the entire supply chain. So from production, from the raw materials to the production, distribution, and the washing and delivery, again, reuse. It is some of the pictures part are missing, sorry. And what they compared. So this study is based on one of the German company. So what they reported. So they compared their reusable packaging with the single-use plastic and paper packaging. And in their calculation, they assume that 95% of the packaging is returned. So return rate, that's why it's quite important, because many studies, research lectures showing return rate, if we can accept or to be accepted reusable system, economically viable, in particular, return rate should be more than 90%. But return rate, I will come also later this, itself will not really, will not have a very comprehensive meaning, because you can return your package. So return rate can be maybe reached to the 99, but how the package is returned also important. So how many package after return is eliminated after the quality check? So this is also important, but it does not report it often. So here also they don't allocate any impact for the end of life phase, because the 100% recycling is assumed after the reusable cycles. Yeah. So one example, so the pink one, colored with the pink, shows the reusable packaging with the 500 milliliter volume. So this container, reusable container, was compared with the single-use plastic. And when we look at the carbon footprint, you can see at the fourth cycle of the reusable packaging, it emits the same or even less carbon footprint than the what single-use plastic does. Yeah, and as very clear that each reuse cycle reduces the emission per use cycle, and this is clearly indicated as environmental benefit. So this is a comparison between the reusable plastic and single-use plastic. And they also calculated what is the waste reduction, solid waste reduction. And after after the lifespan of the 50 uses compared to the 50 single-use packaging. And definitely they see the almost 90% waste reduction compared to the single use. And they also indicated that this waste from this waste primarily comes from the plastics inlays used for the transport. They mean the secondary packaging here is important, because in this study, secondary packaging was not made from the recyclable packaging or reusable packaging. So they say that that's why it's very important also to consider and implement the secondary packaging as either reusable or recyclable. In the second case study, they compared the other type of reusable packaging, which has a volume around 1 liter, with the single-use paper packaging. And they concluded that after 11 uses, reusable packaging achieves the break-even point when compared to the paper packaging. And the higher carbon break-even point is attributed to paper, compared to the previous work. Here, the higher carbon break-even point is attributed to paper's renewable sourcing and the lower emission during the production compared to the plastic. And they also look at what is the water consumption, or how in other words, how the reusable package contributes to the reduction in the water usage. Because the question is, does this reusable package consume much more water than producing new single packaging due to the necessary washing steps after each cycle? And based on their calculation, they said the water used for washing is minimal compared to the consumption required for raw materials and production. And the washing machines, their washing machine and facilities can reuse the water multiple times during the washing cycles. And additionally, water usage in the production is minimal due to the closed circulation system. And their conclusion is that this reusable packaging, the container consumes 74% less water after the lifespan of 50 reusable cycles compared to the single-use packaging. So the previous the case was reported from Germany. So I would like to just show the few slides for the reusable pilot project that is in place in Aarhus, Denmark. So the Aarhus municipality now is running a pilot plant project for reuse, and they said so far they got very high packaging return rates, which is around 98. And this system is designed as an open system, and where packaging from different packaging providers can be returned to the dispensing, reverse dispensing machine all the day of the time to a shared infrastructure of the collection point. And after the initial phase, which is actually so far focused on the hot and the cold beverage takeaway, now is the Aarhus municipality is planning to increase the scope of the materials to cover the different type of takeaway products. And this is the very recent study just reported this year. So they look at, because as they are planning to extend their product portfolio, so they compare the total gas emissions for the different takeaway food product groups. And the green ones is indication for the reusable packaging, and clearly for the beverage packaging, cups for cold drinks, cup for drinks, reusable packaging brings the quite good environmental impact, which is not exactly the case for, in particular, pizza boxes, because in pizza boxes, the carbon emission is found very similar with the single-use packaging. And the reason, based on the report, is that the consumption of electricity, because the pizza boxes are very oil contaminated, it's hard to wash compared to the other beverage takeaways. It demands a lot of energy and water. So that's why, based on their calculation, pizza boxes is so not yet compete with the single-use packaging in terms of this report. And what else? I think this is the last of my slides. So you can also read some of the good information for the reusable system, their implementation, and some of the recent LCA works done for the reusable, mainly for beverage takeaways here. So thank you very much. If you have any question, I can take it.